Dear HSC learners, you are welcome to online English class. I am A.S.M. MAHFUZUR Rahman, Assistant Professor of English, Upashahar College, Jashore. In today's session, I will read from the short story, Luncheon. We have been reading this short story, and today, this is my third lecture on this short story. I am trying to make you understand this short story. Let's now go to the text. In my last session, my last class, I was speaking about what happened at fouts between the writer and his lady guest. And in today's session, I'll be discussing the remaining portion of the short story, the luncheon, so that you have a better understanding of the short story. Although the lady guest assured the writer again and again, saying that she never eats more than one thing for luncheon, but actually she made the writer order about half a dozen of food items at the restaurant at Fouts. When the question of drinks came, the lady guest assures the writer, saying she never drinks anything for luncheon. At the same time, she is expressing her desire, saying that her doctor suggested her only to drink champagne. She further added that the French white wines, champagne, so nice, so beautiful, that it's very wonderful for digestion. So the writer became very stricken. The writer became surprised. The writer became startled because there was huge difference between appearance and reality. That is, the differences between what the lady guest was speaking and what she was actually doing. Let's now go to the next paragraph of the text. She ate the caviar, she ate the salmon, she talked gaily of art and literature and music, but I wondered what the bill would come to. When my mutton chop arrived, she took me quite seriously to task. You see, the lady guest talked about art, literature, music, about songs, about culture. The lady guest talked as if she knew everything about art and culture. So the lady guest was speaking very happily and telling to the writer about her knowledge. So she was displaying her knowledge to the writer, her knowledge about art and culture. But we see the writer was afraid of what the bill would come to. The writer says, he wondered what the bill would come to, because the writer was very stricken and the writer had already thought of what the bill would come to. So the writer was afraid. And at this time we see the writer ordered a mutton chop for himself, which was the cheapest dish on the menu. But when the writer's mutton chop arrived, when the waiter came up with the writer's mutton chop, the lady guest at this time we see expressed her dislike about mutton chop because she told the writer at this time that she can never think of doing hard work after eating heavy things like chops at a midday meal. Let's now go next. I see that you are in the habit of eating a heavy luncheon. I am sure it's a mistake. Why don't you follow my example and just eat one thing? I am sure you feel ever so much better for it. We see in these lines, the lady guest is the lady guest, as the writer told, she took me quite seriously to task. That is, the lady guest forbade the writer. The lady guest warned the writer, saying that it was really a very, very bad job on the part of the writer to eat mutton chop at a midday meal, because she would never thought of doing her labor after eating such a heavy lunch. So here we see, this is an example of irony, because here we see the difference between appearance and reality. Although we see the lady guest is telling again and again that she never eats more than one thing for luncheon, she is making the writer order a lot of food items one after another, and now we see the writer has only ordered only a mutton chop for himself, which was the cheapest dish on the menu. But this time the lady guest expresses her dislike, saying that it was absolutely wrong on the part of the writer, because by overloading, by eating such a heavy food like mutton chop, one should not overload his stomach, because it decreases the spirit of hard work at the time. So this is an example of irony in English literature. This is a difference between appearance and reality. Now the writer is saying, I am only going to eat one thing, I said, as the waiter came again with the bill of fare. She waved him aside with an airy gesture. You see, at this point, the writer is telling to the lady guest that he was only going to eat one thing. So it's very simple. Now, let's see what the lady guest says. No, I never eat anything for luncheon. I never want more than that. And I eat that more. Just an excuse for conversation than anything else. I couldn't possibly eat anything more unless they had some of those giant asparagus. I should be sorry to leave Paris without having some of them. Here we see, when the writer tells the lady guest that he was only going to eat one thing for luncheon, and that was a mutton chop, then the lady guest again assures the writer, saying that she never eats more than one thing for luncheon. But today, this is an exceptional day, that as she was chatting with the writer, she was eating food items, just an excuse of conversation. As the conversation between the lady guest and the writer was going on, it was necessary for the lady guest to enjoy some foods just to pass time, but not for any other purpose, because she assures the writer, telling she never eats more than one thing for luncheon, and today she is eating more than one thing for luncheon, just as she was chatting with the writer, and nothing else. And now we see, surprisingly, the lady guest again expressing her desire to have a taste of asparagus. She says to the writer she would be sorry to leave Paris without having asparagus. You know, asparagus is a kind of vegetables, and it is a very very costly. It is a costly food item at foods, and this is very tasty. So the lady guest expresses her desire to have a taste of asparagus. Now the writer says his heart sank. His heart was panic stricken. The writer was panicked. The writer was startled. The writer was, to some extent, became a kind of in a haphazard situation. The writer says he had seen them in the shops, but the writer never had the courage to buy some asparagus to have a taste, because the writer knew that they were horribly expensive. It was very expensive. So, my dear learners, today I want to put an end to my lecture here, and my next class I will be discussing on this short story, and I think I'll be able to finish this short story, to discuss this short story in my next class. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being with me. Hope you will be studying at home this short story line by line to have a better understanding. Thank you all again.